Let's pull up this next story from Law and Crime. ACLU sues Alabama Attorney General over devastating new law making medical care for transgender youth a felony.
It's a lie.
I love how they call it care.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a lie.
I know, right off the bat. We also have this out of Missouri. Missouri proposes legislation to prohibit gender transitions for minors. Yeah, this is an important thing here. They call it medical care. And I think there's a framing issue here that at the very least suggests this country is totally fractured under by moral framework. Medical care to the left is a 12-year-old biological male says, I don't feel right. So they say, okay, we're going to give you surgeries, which could, permanently alter, damage your body or restrict your body in some way. That we do that for only gender ideology-based circumstances.
Right. Well, and abortion.
Well, so, what I mean is, on the right, it's very clear this is child abuse.
Yeah.
On the left, it's affirmation and medical care. The issue I take with this is just if a 12-year-old boy said, I'm dysmorphic and I need to cut my hand off, we would not say, well, for the sake of the child, we'll remove their hand. Mm-hmm. But we are seeing young women get double mastectomies even at the age of 13 in some circumstances. I posted a study on Twitter about it. Mm-hmm. So I do want to point out that framing, but then just, generally open up the conversation to what we're seeing with these, these states that are banning this. And then there are other states that are going the other direction.
Yeah, you have to define your terms. Medical care, medical care is a thing. It's a specific thing, and medical care is something that is done to treat a problem in the body. It's to treat a disease or a malformation or a lesion or something like that. And so then the question is puberty a disease that has to be treated? That's essentially what we're hearing from the trans ideology side of this. They say that, well, the child didn't consent to puberty, and so you have to put a puberty blocker in. Well, puberty is not a disease. It's a natural process in the body.
Well, and it's not just the body. I mean, hormones wash over the brain, and that's how your brain becomes, more fully developed. That's part of it as well. That's part of puberty, is becoming an adult. It's not just a bodily thing. It's also, it's the body of the brain as well.
Yeah, and so this is horrible framing. These people are obviously perfectly happy to be misunderstood as implying this is a law which would say that a kid could not receive a necessary procedure to save their life because they're transgender. That's how this is framed. What it should say is, in Alabama, you are not allowed to give children sex changes. For some reason, some perverts are mad about that.
So the interesting thing about medical care is that I wonder, does medical care in a general sense include psychotherapy?
Well, yeah. Well, let me. Okay, can I make a point on that real fast?
Just a simple question. The answer is yes. We all agree. And then my point was, in Scandinavian countries, they don't do child sex changes. They do psychotherapy. But in the United States, they argue that's conversion therapy and wrong and shouldn't be allowed.
Well, I was just going to say that the problem we're seeing today has nothing to do with science. And I think we should have seen back in the day when the humanities were usurped educationally. It wasn't by accident. And we'd make fun of them like, oh, do you want to go take a class to where you discuss how you feel about an author's book in The American Dream and Great Gatsby? Or do you want to study engineering? Not realizing that the great thinkers and the ideologues, the people who study the humanities and create these ideas, the philosophers, etc., that are out there, and even people that study English, as we look down upon them, they took a hold of the subjects that we disregarded, and they changed the language. They actually, from the ground up, have redefined the ability to define terms. The average person doesn't know what science is. They don't really understand engineering, but they can read a news article written for a 4th grade level reader. And so I was talking to a transgender Antifa. We were talking about this earlier, a trans Tifa, and Satanist on TikTok Live. And the key thing is here, and I notice this with every argument, all we're battling over then is words. So we mock English teachers like, oh, it's just English. You went to school for English. Well, currently, the battle isn't actually in science. It's English. It's defining actually our dictionary and what words mean in terminology. Even biology is mostly just built up of terms. And, I mean, yes, Latin and whatnot. But I asked him, I go, the guy goes, legitimately, there is fascistic genocide of trans people all around this country, and you're defending it. And I go, fascistic genocide? Where in the world do you see fascistic genocide? I'm serious. I said, I want to know. Because you're
China.
Well, no, but he said this to me. No, but of trans kids. No, but of trans kids. That's almost like pets right now. But the rest of me Shanghai. But he goes, yeah. And I go, where is this? So he goes, oh, well, in the Texas laws. And I'm like, I'm in Texas. I'm very familiar with the Texas trans laws right now, and there's no genocide happening. So he goes on to define and goes, genocide. And I said, what is genocide, man? What is that? And that's what we have to ask him. What do you mean now by genocide? Because we have no absolute truth. He goes, well, that's taking kids away from parents who want to get, gender reaffirming surgery and hormone therapy. And, and I was like, that's weird for me because I thought genocide involved killing, and all the genocidal maniacs and tyrants over the years apparently wasted a lot of resources. They could have just used, Child Protective Services and took the kids away for 2 weeks, and they would have done, I guess, the racial cleansing that they desired. But I go, well, what are you talking about? And then he brings up the fact, as per mentioned, that this is this new thing called social murder. And so this idea of the fact that if you withhold trans reaffirming, and I'm using their words, reaffirming surgery, you are leading to the increased suicide rate of trans kids. Therefore, your actions are the murderous actions, and your choice to limit is murder. And I'm not defending this.
No,
I was sitting there mind blown going, dude. And the best part about this is I got to ask, I said, when did you start hormones? He goes, it saved my life. It saved my life. He goes, well, 22. I go, okay, so you're saying that hormones saved your life at 22? I hope you were past puberty by 22. So you're a 22-year-old who started taking estradiol and different types of blockers and whatnot at 22, and now you're trying to tell me what a 9-year-old should be doing? Buddy.